In today's show, the Blazers bounce back from a debacle in Miami by losing again, but this time only by one at the buzzer. We'll talk about the game against the Orlando Magic and look at the Magic as a potential path for the Blazers to follow in their rebuild. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. It's coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, talk about the Blazers' loss to the Magic, a game that came down to the wire. There was no 60-point blowout in this one. Portland hung around and even battled back to give themselves a chance to win it at the buzzer. Talk about the final play of the game, which is a little bit lackluster. Delano Banton, who had a really nice night. And then I want to focus heavily on the Orlando Magic as a vision for the Blazers rebuild. I promised to tease this in yesterday's show, but it's what we're going to focus on today. We've done this with a handful of teams, 5 or 6 teams this year, maybe 6 or 8 teams rather. It's like, look at how they got from being a bad team to being a competitive team and whether the Blazers can emulate that path, what are the challenges along the way and those things. And I think the Magic are a really interesting case study for exactly this type of thing. We will get into that in the second and third segments. Let's start with the game itself, though. We do with the fastest recap in the West. Blazers lost by 60 in Miami, and no team is more equipped. No team in maybe modern NBA history is more equipped to bounce back from a 60-point loss than the 2024 Portland Trailblazers, and that's what they did. They led after one, 23-22, found themselves down 7 at the break, 48-55. And down 10 after 3, 83-73. Magic led by as many as 15 in the third quarter, but a late turnover and a leak-out dunk by Delano Banton cut the lead to 10 heading into the fourth, and the Blazers made a nice little charge in the fourth quarter. In fact, they took the lead twice, under 6 minutes on buckets from Delano Banton hit a 3, and then Jabari Walker had a putback. Twice the Blazers had a lead. Both times Orlando immediately answered, but the Blazers were hung tough, made this a game, and when they found themselves down 9 with 3 minutes left, they still didn't fold. They got a 3 from Jabari Walker. They got a 3 from Delano Banton. That quickly cut the lead to 3 points, and then a really bad foul from Scoot Henderson. The Magic go back up 5, and then the Blazers come down and tough twisting, cutting off the ball, twisting layup from Scoot Henderson gets the lead back to 3. The Blazers get a stop on a Delano Banton block inside. He had 2 blocks in the final 3 minutes. Block inside on Wendell Carter Jr., and the Blazers go quickly and get a seal, like DeAndre Ayton sprints the floor. When they get the loose ball, they throw it ahead to him with just under 40 seconds left. He's in the paint, turns from a paint seal. You see Anthony Davis do this a bunch, but DA did a really nice job of it, running the floor, getting good position, turns inside and scores, cuts the lead to 1. And the Magic come down. The Blazers now they've created themselves a 2-for-1 in the last 40 seconds. They've created themselves a chance with they don't have to foul. They can just defend. They, load up to the ball on a Franz Wagner drive. He kicks out to Paolo Banchero for an open corner 3. He misses it. Blazers get the rebound, and then the weirdness ensues from there. When DeAndre Ayton gets the rebound, instead of immediately turning to call a timeout, I guess it wasn't communicated clearly during the break that there was a timeout after the Ayton buckets by the Magic to kind of set up what they wanted to do, and the Blazers, they either didn't talk about it or DeAndre missed it, and he hands the ball to Delano Banton. But when he passes the ball, you don't get to advance it on a timeout. Second time this year that Ayton has grabbed the ball late in a game and quickly gotten it out of his hands. I think the instinct is good, right? Like, he's not a dribbler. He's not going to push the pace on his own, get the ball to your guards and run. But in this case, because he passed it, he handed the ball off to Delano Banton, that means the Blazers attempted to advance the ball, and so their timeout is in the backcourt. So now they have to go the length of the floor. They actually had a second timeout that they chose not to use, and it set up a really strange play that I'll talk about at the end. But they have to go the length of the floor, 12.2 seconds left, and Scoot Henderson charges the length of the court, gets himself into the paint, probably got grabbed by Jalen Suggs, but they didn't call it, ends up down on one knee in a crowd, throws a behind-the-back pass out of a crowd from one knee to DeAndre Ayton on the left wing. It's a shot he can make. Shot he shoots really well, maybe as good as anyone in the league from right in that, at least that distance. He's better from top of the key than the wings, but like as good a mid-range jump shooter as they've got in the league, certainly. And he's short on it. The ball comes out, the ball's off the rim, and the Magic hold on to win 104-103. That's your fastest recap in the West. Nobody back healthy in this one. Still no Anthony Simons. Still no Jeremy Grant. Still no Shaedon Sharpe, who's back and traveling with the team. Met him in Florida, traveling with the team. But you're getting DA along with Chris Murray, Jabari Walker, Ryan Rupert, and then a bunch of Delano Banton. Ashton Hagens back with the club after he was with the Remix because it was more important to win a G League game than an NBA game on Friday night. Delano Banton was really good in this game. We'll talk about him in a second. He had 26, 5, and 5. I thought he just made some big plays in the final 3 minutes, big plays in the final 5 minutes. He was good. I thought Scoot had a pretty good passing game. He finished with 13 points, 8 boards, 9 assists, 6 of 16 from the floor, 1 of 5 from 3, 5 turnovers. I thought he probably had 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 other just like good decision passes that if he passes it to another shooter, those shots go in. I thought this was a good floor game from Scoot despite the turnovers. He still makes some kind of crazy plays, and he had to play like late in this game where the ball Gary Harris just knocked the ball off him out of bounds, trying to get the ball in bounds. You got to come to the ball strong and be a point guard. Still does some stuff that's frustrating, youngster stuff, but I thought in terms of the overarching sort of Scoot floor games, I thought this was a pretty good floor game. It wasn't awful. It wasn't good. Like this wasn't like an A+ by any means, but I think the box score kind of overstates. I thought he was better than the box score suggests, and he finished with 13, 8, and 9. 20 for Ayton, along with 20 and 12 for Ayton, a classic no threes, no free throw attempts game for him. Jabari Walker had 18, 9 boards and 5 assists, a really nice Jabari game. And Ryan Rupert hit 3 threes. And when Rupert hits threes, you can see the vision, right? Like I think when the jumpers don't go in for him, it's like, I get it. He's long and is like a competitive defender, but when the shots go in, you're like, he could be a player. Like I want to believe. And he got real fourth quarter minutes in this game. I thought he was good. I thought Ashton Hagens had. I feel like Ashton Hagens. This is how I feel about him. He's just like, he's not an NBA player. He's pretty clearly not an NBA player, but he plays so dang hard that it's easy to root for. And I think sometimes just playing hard, particularly in a game like this where the Magic aren't good enough on offense to kind of run off on you and make like, man, you wish Hagens could score. Like, he does some positive stuff just by playing hard. I can't imagine that he has a long-term NBA career just because, he doesn't bring enough on the offensive end at a position where you kind of need to do that. But I enjoy how hard he plays. Real quick on Delano Banton. He was just straight up good in this game. I have been, critical isn't the right word, but I have been noting that a lot of Banton's production comes in these high volume games, right? It comes in these games and it's like, well, he took 24 shots, It's like he was good in this game. It's like 24 shots, 27 field goal attempts, 18 shots. Tonight is 17 shots and 8 free throws. Still a pretty high usage game for him, but they need him. They need his shot creation. So it's like spinning it forward. That's why I'm like thinking about these like big volume games. It's like he's probably not going to have big volume games in the future, but I just thought he was really good down the stretch of this game. Hit 2 threes that they desperately needed him to hit. One off of an inbounds play, and another throw it into the post, get it back from DeAndre Ayton from the post, ball fake to get open and shoot it. Like he does a pass fake, like I'm going to swing it, like I'm going to swing it to Scoot. No, I'm not going to shoot it. Like, he has some bad misses from 3 in this game as well, but, and he had a late floater where he just kind of got himself into the paint. It was like, I have to shoot because there's no other way out of here. But couple nice rotation shot blocks. Wendell Carter Jr. could have gone up a little faster and not got blocked, but he didn't, and he got his shot blocked. The ability to get in paint is valuable. The ability to make plays in transition is valuable, and the shooting was there tonight for Delano. 4 of 8 from 3, and 2 big ones in the fourth quarter. In the final 6 minutes to kind of make sure that this was still a game after the Magic led by 9 with 3 minutes to go, and he gives them the lead with just under 6 minutes, like 5:45 left, and then it hits another huge 3 with under 2 minutes to kind of put them in a position. I thought this was a good Delano game. Like I think he continues to be intriguing with his length and his pacing. I'm still having a little trouble figuring out what the vision is for him next year on a team. But I think he is, I'll say it a million times, he's just played well enough that the Blazers have to keep him in their plans. He's not like a fixture. Oh, you got to find a starting role in 28 minutes a night for Delano Banton. But he's so intriguing that they got to hold on to his non-guaranteed contract for an extended period of time because he has some stuff that they don't get from other spots. And he was good in this game, and he's an interesting late season find. One of the true bright spots of a late season bummer machine. Let's talk about the final play and then a little bit about a bunch about the Magic and their rebuild approach. That's what we will do in the second segment. First, let me tell you that this next segment is brought to us by BetterHelp. If you are thinking about starting therapy, why not give BetterHelp a try? Therapy can be incredibly valuable to you if you're, experiencing an acute traumatic event. If you have a major trauma in your life, then therapy can be incredibly valuable in helping you navigate that by talking to a neutral third party about what you're going through. But also, therapy can just be incredibly valuable if you are navigating the everyday trials and tribulations of being alive. It can be, think of it like routine maintenance for your car. You take your car in, every 25,000 miles to make sure it's running smoothly. Take yourself to a therapist to make sure you are developing the tools to help you run as smoothly as you can. So like I said, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. You can visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. All right. So I want to talk about the final play for a moment here. The Blazers do all this good stuff to come back. Really strange end of the game, and when you get a stop. Obviously they're just comfortable with Paolo Banchero shooting. The Magic are just they're just not a good shooting team. You load up the paint, you make them take a jumper. They did a good job making them take a jumper, right? You get the rebound, clock under 15 seconds. I don't know if this is the bench or this is DA, because DA did this in another game too, where he got the rebound on a missed free throw late in the game, threw it ahead, and the Blazers kind of had a willy-nilly, okay, we're just going to push in transition and try to win the game without a timeout. I don't mind the hit-ahead pass, but DA's got to know under 15 seconds that your team has, it got to be communicated in the huddle, and he's got to know this when it's communicated to you in the huddle. Both things are true, to take a timeout. And then when they don't advance it, I think Chauncey Billups just needs to advance the ball with the second timeout. I understand why you don't use two timeouts there, because if you shoot and miss and they get the rebound and then foul, you want that second timeout, right? But when you choose to go the length of the court, the chances that you're going to get a second shot with 12 seconds left are relatively limited, particularly when the plan is to give the ball to the 19-year-old. He's 20 now. When they give the ball to the 20-year-old. They had been running a lot of offense through Scoot, and he'd been mostly okay. A couple gaffes, but I think in particularly he had seven of his 13 in the third quarter. He'd been better in the second half after after a start that you're familiar with. But they run this play. They get the ball to Scoot. They're inbounding basically even with the foul line on the far end. So whatever that is, 80 feet from the rim. They're 80 feet from the rim. They inbound it to him. Delano Banton's hanging back in the backcourt. And then when Scoot gets it, Delano Banton sprints like he's supposed to start in the corner. Why isn't Banton just starting in the corner to begin with? Why aren't we setting up something that looks, we being the royal we here, what's the plan here? So Banton runs to the corner. It looks like what it's going to be is two wide pin downs. One that Jabari Walker is setting for Chris Murray coming up in the corner, and he'll come up, and one that DA is setting in the corner for Delano Banton. He'll come up. So what I assume is it's something like you want to have both corner defenders lift and have Scoot Henderson be able to drive, and then the lift is Delano Banton is going to come into the area that Scoot just vacated by driving, and he'll have some kick options and have a chance to get himself downhill and find DA out on the wing and maybe find Delano Banton out at the top of the key, but he'll have decisions, right? But if that's the play, if the play is two wide pin downs and Scoot go cook, what? Like, there's a couple options here. One, the play was Scoot, it was 2 wide pin downs and Scoot go cook, which is like, I kind of like giving Scoot the ball at the end in the last 10 seconds and say, hey, can you win the game, young man? But like, I think good players benefit from lack of structure sometimes because their brilliance and their improvisation takes over. I think bad players are better served with a more rigid structure. And this play, I think the Blazers just failed to execute it. Like the players failed to execute it. But if what it looked like to my eyes, and I've probably watched the final play 5 times as I'm recording this, like it looked to me like there wasn't going to be. It was always going to be Scoot get downhill. It was curious to me. In the end, like he drives into the paint and like this is Scoot at his worst. It's just like head down, drive into the paint, 4 guys, no plan. He doesn't have the explosiveness to really finish around in traffic. He had one really nice finishing contact actually in this game in the fourth quarter. But like he's not explosive where he's going to cram over, dunk over everyone like John Morant. His floater game has not really developed yet. Like Scoot downhill into the trees has mostly lended itself to terrible results this season. He gets into the paint. I think Jalen Suggs fouled him. Like I think he grabbed his jersey. It is what it is. They didn't call it. Scoot ends up now on the ground, losing the ball on one knee, throws it out from one knee to DeAndre Ayton, and DA gets a shot he can make and win the game. It's a shot he can make and win the game. Absolutely. It just strikes me that it's like, at that stage in the game, that's what the coach gets to do. They get to put their imprint on the game by calling something up, drawing it up on the whiteboard to get yourself the best shot possible to win. This is your chance to say, hey, we're going to execute. We're going to play the right way. We're going to do this thing. This is my time to shine type of thing for coaches. And they just like, I would probably give it something like 58% on the players for not executing whatever the plan was, and the remaining 42% on Chauncey for what was that? What was that? In the end, like the Blazers are trying to lose, and they did, mission accomplished. So whatever. I think this was a nice bounce back for them to, they got throttled by 60 on Friday, and to like be in a game where they were competitive and had a chance to win, and came back from, down 15 in the third quarter and down 9 with 3 minutes left, and gave themselves a chance. This was a nice little loss. I don't even mean that. I guess part of me is glad that they played a competitive game because it's more fun to talk about on the show. Let's talk Orlando Magic, though. We've done this a couple times on the program, which is where I discuss kind of the path of how teams went from bad to good or from bad to competitive, and look at sort of how they did it and how the Blazers could either mirror that path or why they wouldn't want to walk that path, or all the sort of pitfalls and positives that come from thinking about how team building works through the lens of another team. And I think the Magic are a really fascinating one. And depending on how you slice it, the Magic are either like a true warning of like, it can go wrong, or they're the vision of exactly how to do it. And what I mean by that is when the Magic traded Dwight Howard in 2012, they were awful for a long time. They spent 6 seasons out of the playoffs, cycled through 4 coaches, and when they hired their 5th coach in Steve Clifford in 2018-19, they made the playoffs back-to-back seasons as an 8 seed and won a total of 2 games. They went 4-1, 4-1 in back-to-back playoff losses, or 1-4, 1-4 in back-to-back playoff losses. If you look at that, like some of you, shout out to my recent college grads listening to the program. You were in the 6th grade when this happened. But like the post Dwight Mayer Magic is, that's not like this is how a rebuild works. And in those years, they picked 2, 4, 5, 11, 6, and 6. But this is what happens when you draft Victor Oladipo and then you draft Aaron Gordon. The 5th pick was Mario Hezonja at 5. The following after the Hezonja year, they picked Domantas Sabonis at 11, but traded him and Oladipo on draft night for Serge Ibaka. You trade 2 lottery picks for Serge Ibaka. Couldn't this is a nightmare, right? Like you're chasing the middle by getting like a decent veteran. And Serge Ibaka ended up being like a useful part on a team that won a title for the Magic, or when the Magic traded him to the Raptors, but like. Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis ended up being like the parts that went to Indiana in the Paul George trade. It's like you chasing the middle and not getting stars back is a problem. Then you get 6 and 6. One of those picks is Mo Bamba. It's just like a lot can go wrong. So if you look at that era of the Magic, it's like, don't be that. That's like the more analogous to where the Blazers are. You trade your franchise pillar and then you end up in the wilderness. The wilderness was 6 seasons, 4 coaches, 6 picks in the top 11. And it ended with 2 playoff runs that get you the 8th seed. And then they made hard decisions, and then it worked out. Let's talk about the hard decisions and how it worked out and how the Blazers can follow that path to close the show. Join me there, won't you? But first, let's talk game time. The MLB season is upon us, and Gametime is the authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball. It makes getting tickets even faster and easier, and prices on the Gametime app are actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. So say you're in Portland, where we don't have a baseball team, and we're unlikely to get one for a variety of reasons that are for another show. But like, going to Seattle for a baseball game is a wonderful summertime activity. And say you're a procrastinator. Well, there's no better way to procrastinate than using the Gametime app and saying, you know what? It's Friday afternoon. I want to go to a baseball game on Saturday night or Sunday afternoon in Seattle. Let's check the app. And then you pull it up. You'll get a picture of T-Mobile Park right there on your phone. You'll get to look at the view from your seats. If you click on preview from your seats, you'll get to see the all-in pricing. So there's no going to be, what you see is what you get right there on the screen. There's no surprises or convenience fees or any of that. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. So download that Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and use the redemption code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. The Magic were bad in the post-Dwight Mayer era. They were bad, and they made a lot of gaffes, and they made a lot of Mario Hezonja, Mo Bamba picks, and they made a lot of trading Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis for Serge Ibaka trades. And that is those are the pitfalls of a team that's rebuilding. It's really hard to get the draft right. Like, it's just hard. So even if you have a bunch of chances at it, 2, 4, 5, 11, 6, 6 in 6 straight years, you might screw it up because it's hard to get it right. And obviously they don't. 2, Oladipo ended up being pretty good, but health, and he wasn't pretty good for them. He was pretty good for other teams. But like, they're not picking at the top of the drafts, and then they were chasing the middle with the Serge Ibaka trade, and ended up in a unique spot because they couldn't get enough right to commit to getting young. And then in 2020 and 2021, this is like the year that started in December following the COVID season, they made the hard decisions. They tore down a core that wasn't working, and they went another direction, and this hard pivot paid off in a hurry. They traded Nikola Vucevic, who had been an all-star for him. He was about to play in his second all-star game. He was the best player on the team. And they said, you know what? We're going to trade him. And they traded him to the Bulls. Heading into that trade deadline, they got Wendell Carter Jr. They got the pick that became Franz Wagner in 2021 and the pick that became Jet Howard in 2023. Who knows what Jet Howard's going to be? But Franz Wagner looks like he's going to be awesome. It saved, in a lot of ways, this trade saved the franchise. They also pivoted off Aaron Gordon during this same run. They have a 2025 pick owed to them by the Nuggets. We'll see what that ends up. It's probably going to be a late draft pick, but you still get a first round pick for it. And they ended up with Gary Harris and RJ Hampton. RJ Hampton didn't work out. Gary Harris is a useful vet for them, but you're not going to. It's like you might not win every trade. They probably did at the time. Gordon, interesting young piece in Hampton, and the money to make it work, and a first round pick was about the going rate. The Blazers balked at trading for Aaron Gordon. Blame Neil Olshey's unwillingness to include one of his young guards, Gary Trent Jr. or Anthony Simons, in the deal. You trade Vooch, you end up with Wendell Carter Jr. You end up with the pick that becomes Franz Wagner. That summer in 2021, with their own pick, the Orlando Magic draft Jalen Suggs. With the 8th pick that they received from the Bulls, they draft Franz Wagner. So now you've got the makings of a core, but they stink the following season because Jalen Suggs is a player who just hasn't figured out offensively yet. He's a good defensive player, but he's really bad on offense. Wendell Carter's just not quite there. They're still kind of the back half of their rosters, they're still kind of figuring out with who plays and when. And Wagner, while he's a really intriguing young rookie, he's a rookie and he doesn't impact winning in the way that you want to do. And the way they might want. And what do the Magic do? They win the freaking draft lottery and they get Paolo Banchero. So in back-to-back drafts, they draft Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner. In 2022, the following year, they draft Paolo Banchero. That's 3 guys who started in the game tonight. From the 2021 trade deadline, they acquired Wendell Carter Jr., they acquired Gary Harris, they acquired the pick that became Franz Wagner, and then they got, with their own picks the following 2 years, they drafted Jalen Suggs and Paolo Banchero. Those are the 5 guys who started the game tonight. That's the hard pivot. Then in 2023, they drafted Anthony Black, who I like. I think, he's maybe not good enough to play in a playoff team right now, but I think he has upside and interesting defensive guard. And Jet Howard, who's I've never seen him play a single minute in the NBA. And looking quickly at his Basketball Reference page, he's played less than 60 minutes in the league, so that's why. I think this is 2 things for the Blazers. One, depending on where you want to cut it, if you cut it immediately after the Dwight Mayer, which is the season where he asked for a trade and then lied and then put his arm around Stan Van Gundy, and Stan Van Gundy sipped a Diet Pepsi awkwardly, and it was just quite a time to be an NBA fan. I miss it. Simpler times indeed. But it's either oh man, it can go really bad, or if you make the hard decisions, and I think this is the lesson from the Blazers. Lesson 1 is hard to get the draft right. 2, 4, 5, 11, 6, 6, none of those dudes are still on the team. None of them. But you have to get the picks right. So getting Jalen Suggs, who's, Franz Wagner's better than Jalen Suggs. You pick Suggs at 5 and Wagner at 8. You never know, but both of them really useful. Wagner has all-star upside. Suggs is all defense upside. Both are really solid. Paolo Banchero was an all-star this year. Is a kind of that sort of foundational hub that you can say, okay, we have this. What else can we do to move forward with it? Franz and Paolo in back-to-back drafts are the foundation that you can build off of. But to do that, they had to make the hard decisions. And that's trade an all-star level vet because they knew they were in the middle. They knew they were stuck. And I think this is where the Blazers they don't find themselves exactly here because they're not in the middle. They're a bad team. They're going to win, 20-some games if they win again. 20 to 22 games. Do I think they're going to win 3 games the rest of the year? I don't. 20 to 21 games. But they have some vets who, if you move off them, you kind of just want to move off your veteran players when you can get value for them. And I think about the Vucevic thing in the way that I think about Anthony Simons this summer. You might be trading to get worse, right? They won the following year after trading Vucevic, they won 19 games. They were awful. Bad. And now they're going to be a playoff team and they're kind of on the rise. But even after trading Vucevic, they spent 3 years as a bad team still, right? It's still not easy. But that hard decision, to pivot off a veteran that helps you win and wins games and was clearly the best player on the team, that decision saved the franchise. That decision let them head on this direction that they want to be. The trades that they made at the deadline in 2021, basically 5 of those dudes and the draft picks they acquired by being bad, by making those trades, started the game tonight on a team that is 44-31 and might finish, out of the play-in in the Eastern Conference race. You got to make tough decisions. I think the path for the Magic, if you just look at sort of the modern Magic, is the year 8 and beyond of the year 7 and beyond of the post Dwight era Magic is you make the hard decisions, you trade away veterans that can help you win but aren't going to be part of what's next, and you nail the draft. And that's what the Blazers have to do. In my mind, that's what this summer is about. Trading away the veterans who are helpful and useful but not going to be part of what's next, do the hard thing, and nail the draft. Easier said than done, and it's unclear exactly what the market is for any of the Blazers' tradable parts. Jeremy Grant, Malcolm Brogdon, Anthony Simons, who knows? I don't think they have to trade every single one of them. I'm not encouraging them to go extremely young. You look at some of the reason why I think the Magic have, I think they have a good mix, right? I think Joe Ingles and Gary Harris give them a mix of like guys who've been in the league a long time and can get it done, and also like young, promising players that you can lean on, right? They're incredibly young, but mix in some vets. I think there is a version of the Blazers that moves forward that looks something like this. But you got to nail some draft picks. You got to pick a Franz Wagner at 8. You got to pick a Jalen Suggs, long-term NBA starter at 5. You got to pick a Paolo Banchero, future all-star, somewhere in that top half of the lottery. You start there, you make the tough decisions, and you can get back to being a competitive team. And the Magic, are they a championship level team? No. Are they close? Not particularly. But what they are is a team with a really good foundation that can get better by eventually cashing in their assets to do so. They got young players. They don't have a bunch of negative money attached to them, and they have a path to be better in the near future, both with internal growth and with adding players from the outside. And that's where the Blazers want to be in 2 years, is a team that has foundational pieces that you can build with and the flexibility to get better. And some of that is coming from making hard decisions, and the other part is nailing the draft. The Magic are an interesting study, right? Because they're not a team that's going to sign free agents. They're in a way a lot like the Blazers. They're a team that has to win through making shrewd trades and nailing draft picks. The Blazers this summer got to make some shrewd trades and nail some draft picks. And then maybe in a couple years, we will talk about them, about pivoting like the Magic did and getting their Franz and their Paolo and being able to build from there. That is going to do it for today's show. In tomorrow's show, a very fun one. Chris Manning of Locked On Cavs is going to join the program, and we're going to talk about Darius Garland's growth from struggling rookie in year 1 to all-star by year 3, and talk about how maybe Scoot Henderson can follow that path, and what are the traits that Garland displayed in year 1 that showed up in year 3, and what are the things he improved on, and sort of what it looks like for a player to go from not good to good in a hurry, from 20 to 22, that maturation. Chris has been covering the league for a long time. You will not want to miss that one. That'll be in your feed on Wednesday. You're listening to Tuesday, April 2nd show. Do me a favor, if you listen this long, this deep into the show about the Blazers playing the Orlando Magic, on a night where the Women's Elite Eight was just a significantly better basketball game, tell your friends about the podcast. Tell them they can get it wherever they already get podcasts, and also on YouTube, free on all platforms. Coming at you each and every weekday. And then come back and listen to tomorrow's show. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.